We are speaking to you from the home of John Cook, just about 89 years young. And this is his memorabilia room. John has the distinction of being a World War II vet and a Korean vet. His father served in the Navy in World War I. And John, good to see you, sir. Thank you for speaking to us and to our students today. Let me ask you, how old were you when you actually enlisted?
I was 18 years old, right out of high school.
Yes.
World War II was going on, and I would have been drafted into the other service, probably the Army.
Yes.
So I selected the Marine Corps.
You selected. Why the Marine Corps, John? Why the Marine Corps?
Well, it looked like that was the smartest group that I've seen, and they all had this elite importance about themselves and the way they dressed and did their duty.
Wow. Yeah. And your dad served in World War I. He was in the Navy. Tell us about your dad.
He was on the battleship. Jeez. He was and he used well.
He was on a battleship.
Yeah, he was on a battleship, South Carolina.
Ah. Okay.
And he was happy to be on there as a machinist mate.
Mm-hmm.
And they traveled around most of the South Atlantic, South America. That's where most of the action was during that time.
So when you were 18 and decided you were going to sign up, of course it was right at the end of World War II, how did he feel about that?
He thought you have the selection yourself. You have to think about it, and then if that's what you want it to be, then you go sign up.
So he didn't try to guide you into the Navy instead?
No, he did not.
Ah, I see. So where did you do your boot camp?
I did my boot camp where everybody on the East Coast does, Paris Island, South Carolina.
And was that what you expected when you went down there?
Yes, that's the only recruit depot on the Atlantic side.
Yes.
And over in the West Coast, at San Diego was the recruit depot.
Oh, okay. So boot camp, what was your biggest challenge there?
Getting out of trouble.
Staying out of trouble.
Yes. We had hard drive drill instructors in the beginning, and eventually they molded us to take commands, and everything seemed to ease up by the time we got out of boot camp.
Mm-hmm. I see. So you're in the Marines in 1946, and what in 1950, Korea, which had been divided after World War II, of course, the Soviets and the Americans kind of carved the country into two zones. The Soviets ran the northern section, and the Americans ran the southern section, and there was a line kind of separating the two. And then in 1950, the Russians, I guess the Chinese, were arming North Korea and decided they were going to try to swallow up the South.
That's sound like that's what happened too.
Yes.
They come crashing across the border all of a sudden. So, total war.
And where were you when you got word that this happened? This is 1950 now, right? Where were you stationed at that time?
I was in the Boston Navy Yard.
Wow.
And that order come out that we didn't have enough Marines to go to war. So all these Marines from duty stations were all getting sent to the main center in South Carolina to form the 1st Division again.
Yeah. Now the Americans, I believe the Americans had withdrawn from South Korea, correct?
That's correct, yes. Everything looked good over there.
Yeah.
They had diplomacy and new thoughts of countrywide.
Right.
But suddenly it was the communists in North Korea that came swooping down on them. It was a sudden attack.
Right. And of course, I think that the domino theory existed in the 50s, where we believed that communism was like a cancer, and if you let it spread to one country, it would knock down another and another. So did you understand that concept as a young, I guess 22 years old by then?
Yes, and the same concept happened in some European countries too.
Yes. So you're in Boston, and you find out you're being shipped over to Korea. What was your reaction?
I thought I wasn't expecting it, and I was willing to go because the whole detachment at the Navy Yard was taken out and shipped down.
Mm-hmm.
We got on a train and we started cross country, and different places. More Marines got on from bases, Philadelphia and Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
All those detachments were joining the train because the government did not have enough men for the 1st Marine Division.
Now you're a Philly boy. You were born and raised in Southwest Philly, correct?
That's correct.
Where'd you go to high school, John?
West Catholic High
Ah.
for boys.
Wow, class of
46.
46. So you enlisted right after high school.
Right.
Amazing. So you're in Korea, and what was your first reaction to were you in direct combat?
Yes, but probably what was the most odd thing, the place smelled because of all this way they have their vegetation, like rice and all that. That's all handled by human waste for growing food and all that. And some of those rice paddies really stunk.
So there was a strange odor.
You're right.
Tell us, for how long did you stay in Korea, in South Korea?
I stayed there, and in the coming winter, I got sick from poor food and got put in a Navy hospital in Japan, and then I come back there after about 2 months and rejoined my original unit again. And from there, it was a lot of fighting and battles till we left there in probably June.
What was probably the darkest day of your combat experience in Korea?
Well, taking a bad beating there, a lot of our guys got killed in our company,
Yes.
and it was hard to, relate to why, so many of our men got killed. But it was total crowds of Chinese after us, so we were actually fighting the Chinese army then.
Yeah, this is really a proxy war. The Cold War between the U.S. and the Soviet Union was underway, and I guess Korea and Vietnam later on. These were proxy wars being fought by satellite nations, huh? Yeah. How was it to? And I'm sure you experienced, death on the war front there. Did you lose any close friends?
Oh yeah, we're in an infantry company, and with every say battle, you've lost a few members, and it's tough to think about this nice guy is dead and that nice guy got mangled in some shell fire, and it's hard to relate to your former buddies that are gone, missing, and you hope the best for them.
Were you ever close to being wounded yourself?
Well, a lot of times close.
Yeah.
You can hear the whistle blowing when the bolts go flying.
Now, how do you deal with the trauma, with the anxiety, with of loss? How do you deal with the deaths of close buddies? Maybe you went through boot camp with or got to know there in your company.
Well, I think everybody just gets a little despondency about it, and you think, well, it happened to them, and that's the job they're in. Naturally, you're going to get killed, maybe, but when it happens, it's a severe blow.
What were some of the duties you had to perform there?
We guarded some buildings in Seoul because one was a bank, and even though we captured it, the money was still in there, and we had to do that, save that.
That's Seoul, South Korea, the capital.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
I see. What did you find to be the most challenging thing that you had to deal with while you were in the service overall?
I think the conditions in the country. It's freezing weather, and in the summer it was red hot heat, and you could get any kind of disease over there because of the vegetation and all that stuff.
I see. What was your most rewarding experience, John?
Getting notified that you're going home.
Yes, yes. Now, how did you respond to being called to? How do you respond to people calling you a hero? And I think a lot of folks in America look at you, gentlemen, as who served and put your lives on the line for us in all these wars as genuine heroes, including
No,
myself.
It's a job. You enlisted and you put in for that type of work, and you have to realize what you were getting into. So if you didn't like it after a while, it's too bad. You're in it. But everybody carried on as well as they could be. You never know what's going to happen the next day over there.
How are the Korean people?
They were very grateful. They're always nodding and waving and smiling at you, and that gave you a little upbeat.
What advice would you offer any young person today that might be looking to join any of the armed forces branches?
Look at it carefully and study it and see what they do and make sure you want to do that, because that's what you're signing up probably for 4 years, and you can't say, oh, I made a mistake on that. You have to look at the details of what you're signing, like any other job.
And what did you personally gain? What experience did you gain by your military experience?
I gained knowing a lot of good guys, and good guys take care of other guys, and we had quite a good camaraderie in our detachment, which boiled over to even when we were out of Korea. We had reunions for years, and everybody got older and better looking. And we all enjoyed each other's company.
So you came out of the service when?
1952.
52. And how long after that did it take you to settle back into a quote-unquote normal lifestyle?
Well, my father had died, and that's why I got out of service.
Oh.
And I went home to help with the family. And he had worked in Atlantic refining down in South Philadelphia,
Yes.
and he had a good reputation there. And when I went to get a job there, they easily let me on because I was Pete Cook's son.
I see. Your father had a great reputation.
Yes, he was a machinist, yes.
Now, you eventually married and had a family of your own. Tell us about that.
Well, stayed bachelor for quite a while. You like to be on the easy and movable, and went to all the holiday spots and met a lot of girls, but finally got one that was the right one.
I met your wife Helen today.
Yes.
I love it. How long are you married?
55 years.
55 years. Congratulations. John, did the adjustment back to civilian life, how was that for you? Was there a lot of trauma? Were you dealing with a lot of like what they call post-traumatic stress today?
No, didn't bother me in the least because I knew what I went through, and I never had nightmares or bad thoughts about it. It was just what you expected when you signed up.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the students that I work with in my particular field are labeled at-risk students, and they face a lot of challenges and some darkness in their lives. For a young man or woman in that situation who might feel like the future is, hopeless, or have a hard time visualizing themselves having a career or a family or just having a decent life, what advice would you give to a young person like that?
I would try to talk to the person to get him to change his local ideas about what life is about, and look in longer lens what it could be better for you in the future if you just change your ways and go along with the reality, not what you think should have happened to you or anything like that. Why not just take it as it comes and try to do your best?
So goals, choices, what do those words trigger for you?
That's what you're looking for in your lifestyle. You're looking for your certain goals, and you want a nice lifestyle, and you're the only one that can do that. You can't be mothered or fathered all your life, you know.
I see. You fought for the United States of America, and you fought for democracy. Thinking back now, was it worth it? How do you feel about our country today, and what the United States stood for then and now?
Well, it's changes in everything. You really can't base on today what it was like when I went in. You know, things have changed. That's over like 50 years ago. You know.
Right. Would you do it again if you had to sign up again?
My wife wouldn't let me.
John Cook, thank you so much, sir. Let's take another. Let's pan this room one more time. You have some really great stuff here.
Here's my father's picture.
Is this your dad?
Yeah, there's the ship up there.
Wow, very nice. His ship is here.
No, up there, the South Carolina.
Ah, the South Carolina. Great. Does that ship still exist today?
No.
Gone, huh?
Yeah.
I see you have some presidential buttons here too.
Yeah.
Nice collection.
Those are all cigarette packets.
Did you smoke while you were in the service?
I smoked cigars, but I gave it all up.
You did. Yeah.
Just to be one of the boys.
I noticed this gentleman here. There's a portrait here that's rather prominent,
Well,
and
he's our favorite hero. That's Louis Burwell Chesty Puller. He was an inspiration. He was our regimental commander.
he was your regiment. Give us the name again.
Louis Burwell Puller, known as Chesty Puller.
Let's focus in on him one
He
more
was
time.
one of the most famous Marines in the country.
Mm-hmm. And you knew him.
Oh yeah, he was very personal.
Right.
He was down in the campfires with you.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else on this wall you'd like to point out to us? I see some Marine Corps emblems here, or patches.
Yeah.
Were these yours?
No, it's just different divisions.
Okay.
And here's our last parade in Boston.
This is up in Boston.
Yeah, that one there.
Right. Now, John, one last question. Many people refer to the Korean War as the Forgotten War. You had the colossal battle of World War II, and then there was the Korean War, and then it was a very controversial Vietnam War, and you're kind of sandwiched in the middle. Do you feel personally that you guys are forgotten?
No, I think we did our job, and we made Korea a better country for the people, and I'm sure they're aware that the good job we did.
Now, of course, Korea is in the news again today with Kim Jong-un, the dictator of North Korea. Has been saber rattling. What do you think of that?
Well, I hope he don't keep saber rattling anymore, because he's going to get up against a new country over there, because they have him motivated themselves to take a chance and hold fast if he tries anything.
Right. John Cook, thank you so much for your time, sir, and thank you for your service.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.